Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. And this time we'll be checking out a film that was sent to me to review by Severin Films. And you can pick this up right now on Blu-ray and DVD. It's a film titled Future Shock, the story of 2000 AD. So recently I picked up the 4K version of Dread, and this was the first time that I've watched this film. And I had a blast with it, really fun time. So I knew I had this documentary on the shelf to still review, so I figured why not come out and watch this one and review it for you guys, because, you know, Dread was still fresh into my mind. If you guys don't know who 2000 AD are, they are a comic book label in the UK that started doing stories that were unseen at the time. They pushed the boundaries of what was normally seen in comic books. They were super violent, and they would have a whole bunch of different social commentaries in them that wasn't really discussed at the time. They started in 1977, and at the time, London and the UK was just a really not nice place to be. There was a huge economic turndown, and things weren't going very well. A lot of social tension and things like that. So these guys came in after initially starting a book called Action, which was pretty much a starting point for what became 2000 AD, and they started to do similar things. But then once 2000 AD came in, after Action got shut down by the Parliament because they were, you know, pushing the boundaries of what was seen at the time, and they were talking bad about them and talking bad about the country and things like that. So ultimately they came in and shut them down, and it turned it into 2000 AD. So when 2000 AD got started, they started doing similar things. And the thing with 2000 AD is it's not a single character in one book like you normally see. You know, it's not an issue that focuses on Batman, and the whole issue is just the continuation of a story in, you know, multiple pages. 2000 AD would take panels. You know, they would show like single panels and tell the story in that single panel, and then another story in another panel, another story in another panel. Then every issue continued that story with the single panel. So basically you only got a single panel every issue. So it's very interesting in that sense as well. And this documentary pretty much goes since the beginning until the end. And we learn about all the different things that 2000 AD did to change the industry of comic book writing. And I'm not that into comics. I never was. And I'm still not. I really didn't know that much about them. So, for example, back in the day, artists and authors would not put their names on the bottom of the cell or the panel that they were writing or drawing. And this was because the publishers of these comics didn't want the competition to go in and try to hunt down these different artists and take them away from the place that they're writing for or drawing for, so they wouldn't put their names in the panel. And 2000 AD revolutionized this by having what was called a credit card. That's what they called it. And basically it was just a little square at the bottom of a cell, and they would put the artist's name and the author's name. And this was pretty revolutionary for the time. They've never really seen this, and to have first-hand accounts from the founder of 2000 AD and the editors and people who drew a lot of these stories talk about that was very interesting. And also the thing with artists and authors, that they would get really shat on by these different publishers. Basically they had to sign out all the rights to their artwork and to their words to the publisher, and basically when they got their check in the mail for the work that they did, they would have to sign the back of the check, which had a clause on the back that said that by signing this check, you give up all rights and copyright and all that to your work. So they pretty much got shafted, and that scared a lot of the artists and authors away from writing for 2000 AD. Now this is all changed when the book got bought out again, and you know, a new company came in and understood the history of the book and gave back the control to the artists and the authors that we see today. So basically it's just a really interesting and hilarious documentary about the ups and downs of 2000 AD. They really get into all the detail and all the different stories that they came up with. They talk about Dread a lot because he really was the main focal point of this comic book. And it was just really interesting. They talk about the Sylvester Stallone film, and they talk about the new film. And it's very interesting to hear people who wrote the books talk about their thoughts about those films and how there's so much influence in pop culture that we see because of 2000 AD, such as the DC comic books. They've become more darker and more grittier. We clearly see that now with these new Marvel films that are coming out. They're clearly not what we're typically used to seeing when it comes to superhero films. They're much more grittier, violenter, and that mainly is because of 2000 AD. Films like Hardware, which wasn't even an authorized film from 2000 AD, came from a 2000 AD story, and they talk about that in this film. And it's really, really interesting to hear that, to talk about Hardware. If you guys haven't seen it, I think Severin put it out, but I'm pretty sure it's out of print now. And I know when I did my review of the film VHS Massacre, I was talking about intertitles and how that film has really, really poor intertitles. It's just a black screen with what is about to be talked about. Now, this film, it has intertitles, but it does it right. We see a very awesome image of whatever the person who's about to talk about the topic, and huge flashy letters. And I understand VHS Massacre didn't have the budget to do that, but this is how you do intertitles. It's the right way to do it. It's not as jarring as that documentary, and I think it's the right way to do that format if that's how you're going to break up your documentary. So overall, if you're into comic books, if you're into Dread, if you're into just learning more about an important part of pop culture, then I definitely think you should check out Future Shock, the story of 2000 AD from Severin. A boatload of features. It has like 7 hours of features, so I wasn't able to watch all of them. But there's some more extended parts of the documentary. Like I said, it's broken up, and some of the bonus features are extended sections of that part of the documentary. And we got some more behind the strips, so it's basically the artist and the authors talking about different stories, and a whole bunch of other stuff, whole bunch of features, of course, from Severin. The Blu-ray looks awesome. You can tell it's shot with a really nice camera. It looks really, really great, and it really makes the colors pop. So if you get the chance to check out Future Shock 2000 AD, I think you should. I was highly entertained by this one. I really, really liked it. So thank you, everybody, for watching this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. I hope everybody's doing well, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See you guys.